The sound of the slap echoed through the room louder than I ever imagined it could. My mother-in-law's hand struck my face with a sharp crack, leaving my cheek burning and my pride torn open. Before I could even grasp the humiliation, my sister-in-law leaned forward with a twisted smile, spat at my feet, and stared at me with pure cruelty. I stood frozen, not out of weakness, but because I had promised myself I would never create turmoil in my husband's family. I had repeated it to myself countless times, believing patience, kindness, and silence would eventually soften their hearts. But as I stood there shaking, my face hot with shame, I finally understood that no amount of silence would ever change them. They didn't want peace. They wanted me broken. My mother-in-law's voice cut through the air like a blade. "You are nothing. Do you hear me? My son deserves someone better than you. Someone who brings honor to this family, not disgrace." Shame. That word had followed me from the moment I married into their world. I wasn't part of their elite circle. My parents were simple, hard-working people, and to my husband's family, that alone made me unworthy. My sister-in-law laughed cruelly. "Look at her, standing there like a lost puppy. Pathetic. Do you really think we'll ever accept you? You'll never be one of us." Her words stung, but they weren't new. What was new was the sound that came next, the slow, deliberate creak of the front door opening. Light poured in from the hallway, and the entire room seemed to shift. My mother-in-law's face drained of color, her hand dropping to her side. My sister-in-law stiffened, her mockery frozen halfway into a smile, because standing in the doorway, tall and unmoving, was the man they feared most, my father. They hadn't truly met him before. They only knew of him. They knew he was a quiet man, a retired army officer, respected in our community, feared when pushed. But they had misjudged him. They had mistaken his silence for weakness. His eyes burned like steel as he stepped inside. "What," he said calmly, his voice heavy with authority, "did you just do to my daughter?" The silence was unbearable. My mother-in-law stuttered. "We were only—" "Only what?" my father interrupted, his gaze unwavering. "Only raising your hand against her? Only spitting on her? In my home, even the daughters of my enemies are treated with dignity. And here, in your own house, you humiliate and abuse your son's wife?" I had never seen them so afraid. My father didn't need to raise his voice. His presence alone stripped them of their arrogance. My husband, who had been upstairs, rushed down after hearing the noise. He stopped when he saw my tear-streaked face and the redness on my cheek. His eyes moved from his mother and sister to my father, then to me. "What happened?" he whispered, though the answer was obvious. "They hit her," my father said simply, "and you let it happen." That sentence hurt more than the slap. My husband's face collapsed in guilt. "No, I didn't know. You chose not to see," my father said, quietly but firmly. "A man's first responsibility is to protect his wife. If he cannot do that, he has no right to call himself a husband." Tears filled my eyes because he spoke the words I had been too afraid to say. For years, I waited for my husband to defend me. He never did. He always said, "They'll change, just give them time." That time was over. My mother-in-law tried to regain control. "You have no right to lecture us in our own home." My father's reply thundered through the room. "The moment you laid hands on my daughter, you gave me every right." The silence afterward was suffocating. My sister-in-law muttered something under her breath, unable to meet his eyes. My mother-in-law looked away, her confidence crumbling. Then my father turned to me. His voice softened, and that nearly broke me. "My daughter, you don't have to live like this. You have a home where you are loved, respected, and valued. You can leave with me right now." My husband turned pale. He reached for me desperately. "Please don't go. I'll fix this, I promise. I'll stand up for you now. Just don't leave me." I searched his eyes, hoping to find the man I once believed in. But the silence of the past years weighed heavier than his sudden promise. My father held out his hand.
patient and steady. In that moment, I made my choice. I stepped forward, not to abandon my marriage, but to reclaim my dignity. I looked directly at my husband. If you mean that, then prove it. Right here, right now. Not later, not someday, now. My husband shook. His mother hissed, "Don't you dare." His sister shook her head violently. But my husband straightened, his shoulders trembling but firm. He faced them both. "If you ever touch her again, you will lose me forever. She is my wife. She deserves your respect. And if you cannot give it, then we will not be part of your lives." Gasps filled the room. My mother-in-law's face twisted in rage. My sister-in-law stormed away. But I saw it, the shift. For the first time, my husband chose me.
My father nodded slightly, satisfied. He didn't need to say anything more. He had already won. That day wasn't the end of the struggle. My in-laws didn't transform overnight, but the power they once held over me was gone. They now knew there was a boundary they could never cross again. And more importantly, so did I. I learned that silence is not strength when it destroys your self-respect. I learned that sometimes the people we love must be pushed to stand up for us. And I learned that behind me stood a father who would walk through any door at any moment to remind me I was never alone. So if you ask me what truly changed everything, it wasn't the slap or the spit. It was the moment the door opened and light flooded in, carrying the strength I had forgotten was always mine. Because their greatest fear was never my father. It was the truth that I was no longer afraid of them.